When I heard the news that Leo had fallen into the river, I jumped in without a second thought to save him. The river water was icy, and I grew more frantic with worry for him. Just as I was about to call for help, having found no sign of him, I heard the disappointed voice of his childhood sweetheart from the shore. She actually jumped in. "A bet's a bet. Leo, I won't bother you anymore." My body went rigid. I turned my head to look, and there was Sophie, standing before Leo with her eyes red. Leo gave a helpless smile, reached out to ruffle her hair, and comforted her softly before finally turning his gaze to me in the water. "Claire, she's young. It's natural for her to be a little mischievous. Don't blame her. This time, she knows how much you love me. She won't interrupt our dates anymore." Only then did I understand. His childhood sweetheart had made a bet with him. If I risked my own safety to save him today, it would prove I loved him deeply, and she would admit defeat and give up pursuing him. If not, she would try to convince him to break up with me, and Leo would have to give her a chance. Leo pulled me out of the water, his eyes filled with satisfaction. He said he was happy to see how much I cared about him. He also said that after our parents met, he would marry me and be good to me for the rest of our lives. But Leo, after loving you for so long, I suddenly feel tired. The frigid river water chilled me to the bone, but I had no intention of getting out. I was in a near frenzy, pushing forward, desperately searching for any sign of Leo. Leo couldn't swim. In this cold, he could be in real trouble. My mind was a blank slate. I pushed through my fear and searched, but I couldn't find him. The cold wind slapped against my face, making it sting. Staring at the calm, undisturbed surface of the river, an unprecedented wave of panic washed over me. Just as I was about to frantically call for help, I suddenly heard the utterly disappointed voice of Leo's childhood sweetheart from the shore. "I can't believe she actually jumped in. A bet's a bet. Leo, I won't bother you anymore. A bet's a bet." What did that mean? My body froze, and an unbelievable suspicion surfaced in my mind. I forced myself to turn and look. Sophie, who had just spoken, was standing in front of Leo, her eyes red and looking utterly pitiful. And Leo, the man everyone said had accidentally fallen into the river, was looking at Sophie with a helpless expression. He reached out to ruffle her hair and comforted her with a soft smile. "It's all right. I just rejected you for good. I didn't say we couldn't even be friends." He had handsome features, and the way he spoke sounded less like comforting and more like coaxing. Sophie, who had looked dejected just a moment ago, immediately perked up and linked her arm through his. She said coquettishly, "Leo, I knew you wouldn't be so heartless to me." A few of Leo's buddies were standing nearby, and they started teasing her. "Looks like you still haven't given up. Sophie, just how much do you like Leo?" Their words made Sophie blush. Leo, unable to watch any longer, protectively shot them a look that said that's enough. From beginning to end, not a single person noticed I was still in the icy river, and not a single person offered me an explanation for what was happening. My heart sank, as if only just remembering me. Leo turned his head to look at me in the water, his eyes filled with guilt. "Claire, she's young. It's natural for her to be a little mischievous. Don't blame her." Hearing this, Sophie pouted unhappily. Leo's friends had grown up with him, and as his childhood friend, Sophie was naturally close to them too. One of them, displeased with Leo's words, said sarcastically, "Leo, that's not right. There's a pecking order to everything. Sophie has known you for so many years. It's perfectly normal for her to worry that some other woman doesn't love you as much as she does." Exactly. You can't say that even if you're trying to placate your girlfriend. If you ask me, this bet was completely unfair to Sophie. If it were her, she would have jumped in to save you without hesitation. If both of them can do it, why should it count as bonus points for Claire? They went on, one after another, and my expression grew colder. Leo had initially paid no mind to their words, but when he noticed my expression change, he shot them a warning look. Then, he looked at me and said lightly, "Don't worry. Sophie knows how much you love me now. She won't interrupt our dates anymore." I suddenly found it all ridiculous. I was so worried about him, so worried that I disregarded my own safety, and it turned out to be nothing more than a bet among their group. I had been with Leo for 3 years, 3 whole years, as his official girlfriend. I had to jump into a river in the middle of winter just to prove my love for him. Also, Sophie would give up her pursuit. It was beyond ironic. Leo reached out and pulled me from the river. The wind on the shore was even colder. My down jacket was soaked through, and with every gust, the chill seeped straight into my bones. But he didn't seem to notice. Instead, he looked at me with satisfaction. "Claire, you're usually so quiet and calm. Like nothing ever bothers you. Seeing you care about me this much makes me very happy. Does it?" I looked up at Leo, my face cold, but I was not happy at all. I asked him in as calm a voice as I could manage. "Leo, does your happiness have to be built on me risking my life for you in the freezing cold?" Leo frowned. Before he could speak, Sophie jumped in. She stood in front of him with red eyes. "Claire, if you're angry, take it out on me. I was the one who forced Leo to make the bet. Don't fight with him because of me." Sophie's gaze was defiant. Her chin held high, as if daring me to scold or hit her. The words Leo was about to say immediately turned into an accusation against me. "Claire, when did you become so unable to take a joke?" His friends also looked at me with disdain. "Yes, we made a bet involving you. But aren't you the one who gained the most from it? Sophie has already given up on pursuing Leo. What more do you want?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. What did they mean? I gained the most. A lump of anger formed in my chest, and I couldn't hold back anymore. For her, Sophie, to openly pursue a man who already has a girlfriend is shameless and degrading. Now that she's given up, am I supposed to thank her for finally deciding not to be the other woman? As soon as the words left my mouth, tears streamed down Sophie's face. As if unable to bear the humiliation, she covered her face and said, "Yes, it's all my fault. I'm the one who pestered Leo. I'll leave right now." She ran off crying, and her victimized act made the knot in my stomach tighten. I was about to turn and demand if Leo had ever truly considered giving Sophie a chance, but I was suddenly shoved hard and fell to the ground. My body was already stiff from the cold, and the unexpected fall sent a jolt of pain through me that almost brought tears to my eyes. The accusations from Leo's friends rained down from above. "Claire, how could you say such cruel things to Sophie? She's just an innocent girl who likes Leo. It's not as sordid as you make it sound. I can't believe Leo is with a venomous woman like you. I feel so bad for Sophie." I forced my tears back and looked up at Leo. I wanted to ask if he thought the same, but before I could speak, I saw his dark, displeased face. He looked down at me, his tone condemning. "Claire, what you said was way out of line. You shouldn't have spoken to Sophie like that. She's just a young girl. She doesn't have any bad intentions. When we get back, you apologize to her, and well, let this whole thing go." So, they used me for a bet, left me in this miserable state. And in the end, it was all my fault. Bitterness filled my heart. I struggled to my feet and fixed my eyes on Leo. "Sophie is a young girl with immature thoughts. What about you?" I questioned him. "Did you really consider giving her a chance?" When Sophie made the bet with Leo, she had said that if I jumped in the river, she would give up. If not, she would convince him to break up with me, and he had to give her a chance. Leo had agreed to the terms of the bet, so even though I was sure I would save him, a thorn was still lodged in my heart. Leo and I got together in college. At the time, his friends were all at other schools, and Sophie, who was 2 years younger, wasn't around. He was the one who took me to the nurse's office when I fainted from low blood sugar in class. Later, he was the one who stood up for me and drove away some local troublemakers who were harassing me. We were in the same major, both good students, and when we naturally got together, people called us the perfect couple, until his childhood sweetheart, Sophie, also enrolled in our university. Sophie had a lively personality and immediately tried to assert her dominance. When she learned that Leo and I were already together, she burst into tears and called his friends. I had been looking forward to having a meal with Leo's friends, but when we finally sat down at a table together, the entire meal was overshadowed by Sophie's grievances and his friends' subtle accusations that I was the one who came later. I was in a legitimate relationship with Leo, but they made me feel like the other woman. Of course, I wouldn't stand for it, I retorted to his friends. But Leo grabbed my arm and scolded me for making a scene. He told me that Sophie was just his neighbor, like a little sister, and he had never had any romantic feelings for her. He told me not to overthink it, to be more generous and not to squabble with a young girl like Sophie. I believed him. I tolerated it again and again when Sophie would throw tantrums and ruin our dates. I was just waiting for her to finally give up. But what if Leo wasn't as good as I thought? What if, somewhere in his heart, he had always kept a door open for Sophie? If so, was there any point in continuing this relationship? At that thought, I clenched my fists, my eyes fixed on Leo, waiting for his answer. Leo's brow furrowed. He looked at me, puzzled, and didn't answer immediately. The last flicker of hope I held for the man in front of me began to die. Beside me, his friends' annoyed voices chimed in. Claire, are you ever going to stop? Sophie has already given up. Why do you have to make such a scene? I really don't get it. What's the point of this hypothetical question? In the past, I had always tried my best to tolerate their cold remarks. But now, I didn't want to tolerate them anymore. I turned to them and said coldly, Are you all Leo? This is between him and me. What does it have to do with you? Someone couldn't help but curse. Damn. Claire, did you take the wrong medicine today? Leo, look at what a difficult, unreasonable girlfriend you've found. How can she even compare to Sophie? I ignored that person's voice and turned back to stare into Leo's eyes, stubbornly waiting for him to speak. Leo's expression was ugly as he reprimanded me. Claire, you're great in every way, except you overthink things too much. Don't worry, after our parents meet, I'll marry you. I'll be good to you for the rest of our lives. After waiting for so long, that was the answer I got, one that felt no different from charity. My eyes filled with disappointment, and my heart turned completely cold. His refusal to answer was an answer in itself. It meant the thought had indeed crossed his mind. In that case, I thought, there's no need to continue this relationship. Perhaps my gaze was too unfamiliar, because Leo began to panic. He reached for me, just like the countless times he had urged me to swallow my grievances. Claire, don't be difficult. They grew up with me. They're like family. I don't want things to be so tense between you and them. Just listen to me. All you have to do is apologize to Sophie. I took a step back, avoiding his outstretched hand, and spoke calmly. Since they're all family you can't part with, then let's just call it quits. I wasn't the type to cling. If we couldn't be together happily, then we might as well break up. Leo's expression changed dramatically. He frowned at me, his voice heavy. Claire, what do you mean by that? Are you breaking up with me? Just because Sophie made a bet with me. 3 years of a relationship isn't nothing. I remembered the good times between us, and how much I had wanted a future with him. But I no longer wanted to watch movies alone, celebrate anniversaries alone, and then have to tell Leo it's okay the next day when he helplessly explained how clingy Sophie was. I forced myself to nod and said faintly, yes. With that, I wanted to turn and leave. The dizziness was getting worse. I had to get out of there before I passed out. But just as I was about to take a step, my arm was grabbed tightly. Leo's grip was strong, and the sharp pain in my arm made me gasp. I had no choice but to turn back and tell him to let go. But not only did he not release me, he tightened his grip. He gritted his teeth, his eyes filled with a rare frustration. Claire, you have to make it clear today. In what way have I, Leo, ever wronged you? You said you were uncomfortable when you saw Sophie give me a Valentine's gift, so I immediately distanced myself from her. You blamed her for interrupting our dates, so I bought you gifts to make it up to you. And now, I've completely rejected her for you. What more are you unsatisfied with? I didn't want to rehash his ambiguous behavior with Sophie over and over again, because when I decided to break up, I thought about it carefully. There was no need to say so much. If I had to tell him again and again, and the distance between him and Sophie remained the same, it meant that he actually saw no problem with it. The fact that he would compensate me after my complaints was, frankly, because he thought I was overreacting and just wanted to appease me to shut me up. My decision to break up with him was partly because of Sophie, but it was more because of Leo himself. The person who had once noticed I wasn't feeling well and stayed behind to take me to the nurse's office now saw me drenched and shivering, yet acted as if he saw nothing, only concerned with his own emotions. It took only 3 years to go from being cherished to being disposable. If it was like this after only 3 years, continuing to waste my time with him would lead to no good end. I spoke, my voice hoarse. Leo, I'm so tired. Please let me go. From now on, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to reject someone who truly loves you because of me anymore. I was so exhausted that I couldn't hide the sarcasm in my voice. I expected him to get angry and walk away. But instead, his expression relaxed. I knew it. You're just making a scene because of Sophie. His friends rolled their eyes at me mockingly. I thought you were serious this time. But you're just playing games again. Leo. She's just trying to force you to cut ties with Sophie. She's so malicious. Leo looked at me with understanding, his grip on my arm loosening. He coaxed me in a low voice. Claire, I know today's events made you feel wronged, but Sophie really doesn't have any bad intentions. What you said today was too harsh. She's a young girl with thin skin. She's definitely not feeling any better than you are. You're going to be her sister-in-law. So just take a step back and apologize to her. I swear, I'll never let her disrupt our dates again. And I won't let her take the passenger seat anymore. As he spoke, he started to pull me towards the car. My mind was sluggish. He managed to drag me a few steps. When I came to my senses, I initially thought that since I wasn't feeling well, I should just get in the car and go back first. But just as the thought occurred to me, I saw Sophie, who had supposedly run off in a huff, sitting in the passenger seat of Leo's car not far away. Our eyes met, and she shot me a fierce glare. Leo saw her too. He paused, still holding my hand, then said without a change in expression, "She's upset this time, so just let her have it. I promise I won't let her sit in the front again." I stopped walking and stood my ground. Perhaps it was because I was unwell, but a wave of nausea washed over me. Leo, completely oblivious, tried to pull me towards the car again. I suddenly yanked my hand away from his. A breakup is a breakup. Why are you telling me all this? Leo stumbled back a step, his face completely dark. Claire, are you determined to fight with me? I suddenly felt a sense of weariness, weary of his inability to understand that I was serious about breaking up. I looked at him quietly and said, "I'm serious." Leo's hands by his sides clenched into fists, his expression growing even uglier. "You're serious?" He stared at me coldly. I said nothing more. After a few seconds, as if his pride had been wounded, he let out a cold laugh and threw out a final sentence. "Fine. Claire, a breakup it is. Don't you regret it?" With that, he didn't look at me again. He stormed over to the car, got in, and drove off. I stood there without moving. His friends looked at me with some surprise. "You're really breaking up. But it's for the best. You were never as good as Sophie anyway." They had always supported Leo breaking up with me and getting with Sophie. So after a moment of surprise, they broke into happy smiles. "Claire, you'd better have some self-respect and remember what you just said. Don't come crying back and saying you were just being moody when Leo doesn't come to comfort you." The dizziness was getting stronger, and even my vision was starting to blur. I vaguely heard myself tell them, "I won't regret it." They laughed heartily, turned around, and got into the car. Before my vision went completely blurry, I saw Sophie flash me a triumphant smile and deliberately hug Leo's arm. Leo's expression softened slightly. He didn't look at me again and started the car. They left, laughing and talking, while I, overcome by the cold and exhaustion, collapsed to the ground. When I woke up again, I was in the hospital. The nurse saw I was awake and told me that two kind young women had brought me here. I had just woken up and my mind was still foggy. After a moment, I asked her in a hoarse voice, "Did they leave any contact information? I'd like to thank them." The nurse shook her head. "They said they just happened to be passing by the park and saw you arguing with a group of people. They thought you didn't look well, so they waited around for a bit. So that's what happened." I lowered my eyes and remained silent. As my mind cleared, the events of that day became sharper, leaving a heavy feeling in my chest. Seeing my silence, the nurse hesitated for a moment but couldn't help but speak up. "Miss, were you being threatened or bullied by that group? There are many cases like yours, where people are too scared to say anything after being threatened. I suggest you go to the police. Your situation yesterday was life-threatening. They just abandoned you there. You can press charges." The nurse spoke cautiously. I managed a weak smile. It seemed she thought I was a victim of bullying. I was about to explain that it wasn't what she thought, but the words died on my lips. Yesterday, I had rushed to the park after receiving a message from Leo asking me to hang out. As soon as I arrived, I heard his friends frantically saying that Leo had accidentally fallen into the river. I jumped into the river like a fool to search for him, only to be treated like a joke. Later, when I questioned Leo about the bet, I was told I was overreacting. And in the end, I watched them leave laughing while I collapsed alone. This kind of disrespectful game. What was the difference between it and bullying? The smile on my face gradually faded, replaced by a bitter one. Forget it. After all, Leo had saved me before. Let's just consider yesterday's events as me repaying that debt. From now on, whatever he does has nothing to do with me. Just as I had this thought, my phone rang. It was Leo. I instinctively frowned, not wanting to answer, but remembering I still had things at his place. I finally pressed the answer button. Leo's voice came through the phone, his tone cold as he informed me. Claire, since we're breaking up, come over this afternoon and get your things. I was about to speak, but he had already hung up, swallowing the words I was about to say. I asked the nurse when I could be discharged. She said I still had a few 4 drips left, and it would probably be evening by the time I was done. Since we were breaking up, I couldn't possibly make Leo wait from the afternoon until the evening. After some thought, I sent him a message, telling him I would come over at night to get my things. But as soon as the message was sent, a notification popped up. I had been blocked. I tried calling, but the call wouldn't go through. I was silent for a moment, then asked the nurse to speed up my 4 drip. The nurse said hesitantly, given your current condition, it's best to stick to the normal drip rate. Of course, I wanted to, but I had been so resolute yesterday. If I didn't show up on time today, they would just say I was being moody again. Since I had decided to make a clean break, it had to be done quickly. I smiled at the nurse. It's fine. Please just speed it up for me. I finished the 4 drips before evening, and after being discharged, I took a taxi straight to Leo's apartment. I thought he would be alone, or that no one would be there. But to my surprise, when I opened the door, they were all there. Leo was the first to see me. He had a cold expression and didn't say a word, still clearly angry. His friends saw me and started taunting me sarcastically. Well, look who's finally here. We thought you were going to back out and go back on your word. Sophie turned to scold them. What are you talking about? Claire and Leo just had a fight. It's not like they've really broken up. She said this, but her eyes were hostile, as if she was afraid I would change my mind. I ignored her and went straight to pack my things. Seeing this, Leo's face darkened, while Sophie's eyes lit up with delight. With my back to them, I packed my belongings one by one. I didn't have much, so I didn't really need to come back for this trip. But there was one thing here that I had to retrieve. I packed everything else, then knelt down, opened a cabinet, and took out a box from inside. Just as I was about to stand up and leave, my expression changed. The box felt too light. I put down my other things and opened the box. It was empty. My mind went blank for a second. I was about to turn and ask Leo, but I suddenly heard Sophie's cheerful voice. Leo, this bracelet from your place is a bit simple in style, but it's quite pretty. I quickly turned around. Under the light, a silver bracelet on Sophie's wrist was gleaming. She was smiling and showing it to Leo. When Leo saw the silver bracelet on her wrist, he seemed to remember something. His brow furrowed slightly as he glanced at me. But then, as if he hadn't thought of anything at all, he told Sophie, that style is too old-fashioned. You can just wear it for fun. I'll get you something better for your birthday. My expression shifted. I looked at Leo, my hands by my sides slowly clenching into fists. He knew perfectly well that it was the only thing my mother had left me. A fire burned in my chest. Seeing that Leo completely ignored my gaze, I lost all hope in him. I suppressed my anger, walked over, and looked directly at Sophie. That bracelet is mine. Take it off and give it back. Sophie pulled her hand back and feigned innocence with a smile. Claire, since you've really decided to break up with Leo, are you really going to take back the things he gave you? Sophie was deliberately targeting me. She always had, and she was doing it now. I always knew she hadn't given up on Leo, but now, I had already handed him over to her. Why was she still trying to cause trouble for me? I took a deep breath and said again, I'll say this one last time. Give it back to me. Sophie pouted and turned to Leo, whining. Leo, Claire is being so petty. You already said I could have it, and she still wants it back. I quite like this bracelet. Can you talk to her and ask her to let me have it? Leo turned to look at me, about to speak, but I had reached my limit. I swung my hand and slapped Sophie hard across the face. Amid her scream, I grabbed her arm and quickly unclasped the bracelet. Leo, save me. Claire has gone crazy. Leo instinctively shoved me hard to the side, his face full of disappointment as he shouted at me. Claire, how long are you going to keep this up? It's just a worthless old chain. Was it necessary to get physical with Sophie? My leg hit the coffee table from his push, and the pain made my whole body tremble. Sophie was crying a river, looking incredibly wronged. Leo's friends were heartbroken for her. They all shielded her, yelling at me, a petty, narrow-minded woman like you never deserved to be with Leo in the first place. Exactly. It was the worst luck of his life to have met you. I ignored them. Once the pain subsided, I carefully put the bracelet in my pocket. Seeing this, they became even more furious. Leo, do you see her true colors now? Claire is a cold-blooded and selfish person. You can't be soft-hearted anymore. Just tell her to get lost. Leo's face was grim, but he didn't actually tell me to get lost. He walked over with a cold expression and grabbed my arm forcefully. Claire, you've gone too far this time. I'm giving you one last chance. Apologize to Sophie. If you don't apologize, we're really over. The man who had once promised to help me protect my mother's bracelet was now not only letting someone else wear it for fun, but also calling it a worthless old chain. I shouldn't have found Leo ridiculous. The truly ridiculous one was me. I should have never believed those words in the first place. The only person who could truly protect my precious things was, and always had been, me. I forcefully shook off Leo's arm and slapped him across the face as well. I don't need your chances. We were already over. Leo's head snapped to the side from the slap. His friends stared at me in shock, while Sophie rushed over to cup his face and check on him. Leo, are you okay? After seeing the clear handprint on his face, she questioned me with red eyes. Claire, how could you hit Leo? He didn't do anything wrong. Leo's eyes darkened as he stared at me coldly. I didn't look at him, only smiled at Sophie, who had a hint of triumph in her eyes. I've cleared the way for you. A premature congratulations to you and your childhood sweetheart on growing old together. With that, I picked up my things and walked out. Behind me, Leo spoke with a grim face. Claire, what do you mean by that? Stop right there. If you dare to walk out that door today, there's no coming back, no matter how much you regret it. His answer was the sound of me slamming the door shut. Standing outside, I could hear the sound of a glass shattering inside. Leo was probably venting his anger, but that was no longer my concern. I went straight downstairs and back to my dorm. Then, I filled out the application for the graduate school entrance exam. My original plan had always been to go to grad school. I felt I was still young and in no rush to work. I could further my education. But Leo didn't agree. He said his family was wealthy, so it was fine if I wanted to study more. But if I went to grad school, we definitely wouldn't be able to be together all the time. Leo hoped that after graduation, I would join his family's company as an intern with him, and eventually help him manage the company. We had fought many times about Sophie during that period, so I had always been hesitant about his proposal. I wanted to follow my original plan, but I couldn't bring myself to refuse the future he painted for me. Now, it was fine. I could follow my own plan. I cleared my mind of all distractions and spent my days studying in my dorm. Time truly is a great healer. Day after day, I surprisingly got used to a life without Leo. One night, I suddenly received a call from him. Woken from my sleep, I was still groggy and answered without checking the caller ID. By the time I saw who it was and wanted to hang up, I heard Leo's drunken voice. Claire, why haven't you come to see me all this time? Are you still mad at me? I know that incident was Sophie's fault, but we've all known each other for so long. Asking you to back down was just to keep the peace among us. Why can't you just understand me? I stared at the ceiling and suddenly wanted to ask a question. And when have you ever understood me? I closed my eyes. They had all known each other for so long. If Leo had truly wanted me to fit in, he would have made things clear to Sophie from the beginning, leaving her no room for hope. He would have also shown his friends how important I was to him, so they would stop sarcastically calling me the one who came later. But he did none of that. It wasn't that he didn't know. He was fully aware of my grievances and dissatisfaction. It was just that I wasn't as important to him as those people were. And he enjoyed seeing me and Sophie fight over him. So he played deaf and dumb. I didn't ask the question I wanted to ask, because I felt there was no point. Leo and I were over. We probably wouldn't have any contact in the future, so there was no need to try to make him understand me. I clutched the phone. Leo, we've broken up. Please don't bother me anymore. The most important thing for me right now is to study well. I didn't want any distractions. I hung up the phone. After a moment's thought, I blocked all of his contact information. I hadn't done it before because I figured since he had already blocked me, there was no need for me to do the same. But now, it seemed safer to block him. Leo stared at the disconnected call, stunned for a moment. In the past, Claire would never have been the one to hang up on him. Why had she changed? He sat stunned on the sofa in the private room. Beside him, Sophie bit her lip, her eyes filled with hurt and unwillingness. His friends exchanged glances. One of them, who had a long-standing crush on Sophie and couldn't bear to see her sad, boldly took the phone from Leo's hand. He said jokingly, "Leo, stop calling. If you ask me, Claire doesn't deserve you. Think about it. Since you two got together, have we ever had a happy outing? She's so petty and overthinks everything. And you still have to coax her in a low voice. It hurts me just to watch." Leo didn't say anything, just tilted his head back and finished the drink in his glass. Sophie boldly leaned against his shoulder. "Exactly, Leo. Wouldn't it be better if we were all happy together like before?" Feeling her proximity, Leo suddenly stood up and moved to a single armchair. He frowned at Sophie and said, "Sophie, you should know. I've always seen you as a sister. I've never had any other feelings for you. I'm sorry I didn't make it clear to you before. From now on, let's keep a proper distance." Sophie froze. Leo's action of getting up and moving away made her look like a joke. Her eyes immediately turned red, and she decided to go all in. "But I've liked you for so many years. How do you expect me to just give up?" The others also looked at Leo with disapproval. "Leo, Sophie has waited for you for so long and has never given up. Why can't you just give her a chance?" Looking at Sophie, who was crying with unconcealed grievance, and his friends who were condemning him, Leo felt a pang of regret. When he had indulged Sophie's unreasonable demands, he had actually wondered if he had developed feelings for her. He had even considered giving her a chance. But after Claire made up her mind to break up with him, he realized that he wasn't in love with Sophie. He had always loved Claire. The reason he indulged Sophie was simply because he wanted to see Claire get jealous. Leo truly regretted it, but he didn't think it was impossible for him and Claire to get back together. They had 3 years of history. Claire was angry simply because he hadn't made things completely clear with Sophie. As long as he stated his attitude to them and then went to coax Claire a little, she would definitely forgive him. Leo stood up and said calmly, "I'm sorry, but I still love Claire. Sophie, it's impossible between us." After he finished, he turned to leave, but he was suddenly shoved and fell to the ground. The guy who liked Sophie had a face full of anger. He got on top of Leo and threw punch after punch at his face. "Leo, you're a damn bastard." Feeling guilty towards Sophie, Leo took a few punches without fighting back. Then, as the guy was about to continue, he kicked him away. He stood up, wiped the blood from the corner of his lip, and said in a low voice, "Now that you're done, I'm leaving." He ignored Sophie's unwilling gaze and left the private room. The next time I heard about Leo, it was that he had fallen into the river and was hospitalized. When his friend called me from someone else's phone to tell me, I didn't really believe it. I told them coldly, "I won't fall for the same trick twice. If you're worried about me competing with Sophie for him, you can rest assured. Leo and I will not be getting back together." There was silence on the other end for 2 seconds. Then a voice of apology. "We were wrong about what happened last time, but I'm telling the truth this time. I'm not lying to you," he anxiously explained. And only then did I find out what had happened. It turned out that a few days ago, Leo was mugged while walking alone in the park and was pushed into the river. He was already unconscious when he was rescued and taken to the hospital. The hospital worked through the night to save him, but after he was revived, he developed a high fever. He had only just regained consciousness. I listened in silence and then asked, "So, we had already broken up. What did this have to do with me?" The person on the other end seemed surprised by my calm and ruthless response. When he spoke again, his voice was much smaller. "So, can you come and see him? He wants to see you." I thought about my recent study schedule and refused. "No, I'm very busy. I was busy studying, busy improving myself. I had no time to see Leo, nor did I want to listen to his nonsense." Just as I was about to hang up, I suddenly heard Leo's weak voice from the other side. Claire, I was wrong. If I had known how cold that river was, I never would have agreed to that bet with Sophie. My hand paused for a second. Then, without hesitation, I hung up the phone. He didn't think about it when he should have. It was meaningless to say these things now. I had already planned my future, and I wasn't going to turn back.